So this video is going to look at the specific court position you want to be in when it's not your turn to play. You've hit your shot. You can't really control much else now. Your opponent is going to be hitting the next shot. But the one big thing you can control is your position on the court. And in essence, you might have heard it before, but we're going to talk about the tee. So this line, that's your tee. But there's a big myth, because a lot of times I've heard coaches say move to the tee. And I see students go, oh, got that. And they're on the tee. But actually, the tee is not a fixed point. It's a movable point. It is an area around here. And I'll go into a bit of detail why that is. Because strangely enough, if you get back to the tee and you get very central, what happens is you leave everything open. You know, you're almost covering nothing. Yes, you're central, but you're not really cutting down angles and options for your opponent. And what I like about the tee is you slightly favor the area the ball is in. So in a simple term, let's split it up into quarters. So we've got the back left quarter, back right quarter, front right, front left. So if there was a line here. If I played a drive into the back left and that my opponent's a bit buried in that corner there, my tee position is about here now. I'm going to slightly steal a foot. I'm going to go to that part of the court because I want to cut down his options. I want to cut down his ability to get the ball out of there. Okay, I've got to be mindful that he could put the ball anywhere, depending on the quality of my shot, but that tee position is so variable, and I want you to try and move it around a bit. And as I said, simple terms, get it into the quarter. If I've taken it to the front left, I might just steal a foot here. I'm going to cut it down, covering everything, front right and back right. There will be greater variables around that depending on how early or how late you get to the tee. If I'm under massive pressure, you know what? If I just get past that line, that's good enough. If I played a rubber shot, at least I'm a little bit central, I'm covering everything. But if I'm attacking, I want to cut down angles and options. One of my favorite tee positions to talk about and court positions to talk about is the one where I've had such a good drive down that corner that my opponent's in here and it's pretty stuck there. And technically, I'd say near on impossible to get the ball into the back right quarter. So you can almost think, right, that quarter is not available. My opponent is never, ever, ever going to play to that part. You know, if they try to, I'm going to easily intercept. So if I've nailed that ball down the line, my tee position would float across. I might even go higher up. So I'm covering all of that side now. I'm really blocking him off, but I'm mindful that he might whip a boast round. But because I'm high up, I'm covering that boast. So that's one example of a floated or movable tee position, which I find really interesting. To get back to the tee, I want to talk about how you get back to the tee well enough is using your swing through the shot, using your follow through. So if I'm moving into the back there, if I'm lunging in, and you notice that I'm trying to use my swing, my follow through back, and again here, boom. We've talked about that in some of the lunge videos, but if we want to get back to the tee and we want to get back to this area, we've got to connect things up. We can't go there, hit, and then force it back. It's going to be so difficult to get back to that central tee position. So making sure you link in your movement or link in your follow through with your movement will allow that good tee position to come in. One last thing I want to talk about in regard to this tee position is something I call the fried egg analogy. So you can imagine a massive fried egg on the court. You've got your yolk. In essence, that's your floating tee. You want to be physically in that yolk. You want to be kind of hovering around that yolk all the time. And this is a bit tactical, but it's worth talking about. The white of the egg is where you don't want to really place the ball. You want to place the ball onto the toast, which will be in the extremities. But I'm using that analogy in regard to you physically got to try and get into that yolk more often than not, and you've got to place that ball into those extreme areas where the fried egg wouldn't be sitting on the toast. And I use that analogy a lot. I think it's actually a really important one to get people's minds into the idea of, first and foremost, your court position and your slightly floating tee, these little areas there, as well as then tactically going, well, you know what, I want to stay on this tee. I want to stay in that egg yolk and put the ball in those extremities. Because if you achieve that, you will end up dominating that tee and you will end up staying in that central area for longer and longer. So if you have this good court position and this good tee position now, you'll be able to cover the majority of your opponent's shots, whether they are attacking or defending. But it allows you to cut down their time, cut down their options, because you're in such a strong position, you're going to be already going to an area you think they're going to play. And that is a massive asset and a massive bonus to have in your bag, to be able to get inside your opponent's head essentially and be able to cover any shot they do, because your tee position is so strong and because you're going to cut down some of their angles. If my tee position was here and they're on the backhand, I've just given them a massive out. They can hit anything down there and I'm not really gonna, I can get to it, but I might not attack it. All of a sudden, if I'm here and they hit a backhand, I might get in and play that volley drop. And squash, there's quite an interesting description of squash. It's been described as chess with legs, or fast chess. And one of the big tactics in chess is to dominate that middle of the board. So if you can be operating here, taking only maybe one step out and hitting, or one step out and pushing in a drop, or one step out and volleying it through to the back there onto those toast areas, you are going to be controlling that tee so much better. And that positioning is what you're striving for. You're really trying to strive to do that. And we'll talk about some of the tactical elements later on, but that is a key element in regard to your controlling of the tee and your court position on the court.
Have you ever wondered what Jonah Barrington, Nick Matthew and Jonathan Power all have in common? They might all be world number ones, but they're also all coaches on squashskills.com. Now, Squash Skills is the online training platform that's designed to give amateur players the insight and knowledge to take their games to a whole different level. So if you've been struggling with your game, or you're stuck in a bit of a rut, or you're wondering how to improve, we've got you covered. With over 4,000 videos from some of the biggest names in the sport, as well as the ultimate training app, complete with every single squash exercise under the sun, we're there to take care of you and ensure that you can improve your squash no matter what your level. We're so confident that we can improve your understanding of the game that we'll even give you a 14-day money-back guaranteed if you're not completely satisfied. So if you're looking to take your game to a whole new level in 2024, be sure to check out squashskills.com today.